Welcome to Big Blend Radio's Supervision Matters podcast with Rita Sever, a leadership coach, HR consultant, and author of Supervision Matters and Leading for Justice. Everyone, today we're going to continue our discussion with Rita about feedback. Yes, feedback. Today she's going to talk about her formula for feedback. Last time we talked a little bit about the benefits and the basics of what feedback is about. And if you haven't heard that, Rita's going to give us a little bit of an overview about what feedback is, and is this a system that should be in place in all organizations, no matter what size, Rita? Welcome back.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
In any relationship, really, but of course, I'm focusing on workplaces and supervision in particular.
Okay, so the feedback section would be more from like the HR department, the managers, even colleagues?
Well, colleagues for sure, it really should go every which way, but not so much HR. By the time HR gets involved, hopefully you're past the feedback part.
Oh, okay.
So that you want the supervisor who knows and hopefully has a relationship with their staff to be letting them know what's working and what's not working, which is
Okay.
really the essence of feedback.
Yeah,
What
because the HR person isn't the specialist in that industry. They are the specialist in the people, right? And the manage,
Right. And they may, might be appropriate for the manager to go to HR and say, I have to give some hard feedback. Can you help me frame it, or can I practice with you? But it should
right.
come as part of the relationship, because ideally you want feedback to be part of how you set people up for success, that you let them know what they're doing well and what they could do better.
I did see a fun meme today that I'm going to share with you. I couldn't believe that this happened like right before. And it was a meme and it said on Facebook and it said, "Get well soon." No, it wasn't to a coworker that was sick. It was meant for get well soon. In other words, improve your job, what you're doing on our project. Would
Right,
so
right.
I thought, did you know? I mean, did that algorithm really know that Rita and I were going to do this today? Maybe it does, but
Right.
get well soon as a card to a colleague is that's pretty brutal, isn't it? But
That is.
funny.
It's funny, and it may open up a conversation. But
It
yeah, last month we talked about how important it is to normalize feedback, to
mm,
make sure that it's part of your conversations on a regular basis, not only when something's messed up.
yeah. And so if we use
Acknowledge what's
that term
working.
feedback all the time, then it becomes normal too, right?
Well, and using it or not, you still want to be doing it. You
Mm,
don't necessarily have to say, I'm going to give you feedback every time. But
yeah.
part of your conversation is, well, I think this went really well. I'd tweak this a little bit. Do you have anything you want to tell me that's working or not working? It's
Mm.
just part of how we talk together.
Well, since our last month, I have implemented a couple things just in
Okay.
conversations between, you know, different people I work with all the time. And I just gave feedback in something that I normally would just, yeah, I thought you would already know.
Uh-huh.
So
Right.
it was like a feedback. And then I realized that the people that I gave feedback to, which was all positive stuff,
Uh-huh.
had this kind of like, oh, she is listening.
Right. Right. She's paying attention. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I kind of already just expectations are a bad thing, isn't it?
Well, not in my world. In my world, the point is
Oh
to be
yeah, yes.
clear about expectations, but unannounced or unspecific expectations can be problemac for sure.
Yeah. Well, I learned. I'm always learning from you, Rita.
That's great.
We're a small business, but I think your work with what you do really does go beyond. It you always have some good advice for just communication between people that I
Absolutely.
think, because I know you deal with organizations and nonprofits, but then there's so many of us working in freelance work and independence. So I think what your work is doing that too.
Absolutely. The secret to my work is really that I'm about interpersonal relationships, and I put it within workplaces and specifically supervisor staff, but it
Mm,
really is for anyone.
I like that. So today it's all about the formula. No, we're not talking about milk, but but anyway. So we want to talk about how to deliver feedback that is going to be the most effective.
Right.
One of your notes, you said you always send me this list of like, okay, let's do this. You talk about brain research. So this is about the negative and the positive, right?
Well, what the brain, I was fascinated by this.
I
They
love this stuff.
did studies where, they did functioning MRIs. So actually looking at how the brain reacts. And
Mm.
part of what they realized is, first of all, that when people receive negative feedback, the same part of their brain lights up that lights up when they get physically hurt. Like if they get poked
Wow.
with a hot stick or something, the same part lights up. So
Wow.
our brains are really sensitive to feedback. And other studies have shown that we are much more prepared to hear negative feedback. Most people who are supervisors have had the experience where they do an evaluation with someone and 97% of it is good and they came up with one thing that they could do a little better, and the person just perseverates about that one thing.
Oh.
That is part of how we're hardwired, that we pay more attention to negativity because it could endanger us.
Yeah, so it's a security blanket.
Absolutely. And
Mm,
that's the other thing the MRI showed, is that when we receive negative feedback, in particular, it feels adversarial. It
mhm,
feels like we're being attacked. And we revert to our limbic brain. So we go into that fight, flight, freeze, or appease
mm,
stance. And so my formula is a way to calm that reaction down, because
okay.
most people, if they know that they're getting feedback and they're not prepared for it, they get nervous and they're defensive before
And
you.
get into an emotional reaction.
Right.
Well,
Right.
they say sticks and stones won't break my bones, but or could break my bones, but words will never harm me. That's not really true.
Exactly. I actually have a chapter in my book about that.
It's really not true because
Right.
especially if it's
Words do
constant,
hurt.
it's like it's traumatic, right?
Yes.
And I also think, we talked about reviews even in the last month's episode, right? About that's part of feedback now, customer reviews and things like that, and a disgruntled employee may go and start putting reviews too. So
Right.
you got to be careful of that. But what I have found in personal life is that women have a different reaction. Men handle it differently, and
Mm.
women do. And I'm generalizing, y'all. I'm general. I
Right.
can't be. I'm not going to get into personal specifics on everyone in throughout my life, but I wonder about that with women feeling very mama bear.
Hmm.
I wonder if that's that other extra coating that happens to women. It's personal. It's more, a little bit more emotional, whereas men will be more, I'm going to solve this now, to take care of that.
That's
So
very possible.
it's the
Absolutely.
same emotion, but channeled in different ways.
Right. Yeah, it's that fight, flight, freeze, or appease that, men, generally speaking, again, will move toward the fight, and women tend to move to either the
Tears or,
freeze or the appease. Like, okay, I'll
mm,
be nice and not necessarily change anything, but I have to be okay with you.
oh, yeah, that's true. Ah,
So my
interesting.
formula tries to settle that down preemptively so that people can actually hear what you have to say and then be more likely to act on it.
And so when it comes to that too, that they understand that you're on the same team, isn't that the biggest
Exactly.
part too?
That's absolutely the first step. So before I go into the formula, let me just say a
Mm-hmm.
couple things about why I think a formula is helpful. First of all, it really helps you prepare to give the feedback. Having a formula sort of walks you through the steps,
Mm-hmm.
and taking time to prepare makes all the difference. Because if you're going to just react off the cuff, you're more likely to say it in an emotional way yourself and then set up the defensiveness. So using the formula can help you prepare. It's, as you just said, you want to make sure that you are ready to say it in a way that underlines we're on the same side. We both want our organization to be successful. We both want you to be successful. And it helps you be succinct, because part of what happens when people are nervous about giving feedback, because we have it on that side too, we're going through some of
Right.
the same things, then they tend to talk on and on and on to try to convince the person that they're right. And so having a way to make a very concise statement is very helpful. You should be able to give the gist of your feedback in a minute or less. And then you keep talking, of course, but it starts the
Give a
conversation.
breath. Give a breath.
Right.
Yeah. Um, with this formula, does it work for companies that maybe, because there are so many companies and nonprofits have campaigns that they're doing. So let's look at a nonprofit going in. Here's a specific issue that we're going to go and tackle. We're getting volunteers together because feedback also has to happen with volunteers. Ooh, that's a difficult. Yeah. Ooh, that's like really tender. Um, so it can be employees, volunteer, all these kind of situations, but it's a short-term thing maybe. We're going in at this time to do this for 60 days, say, or 30 days. Maybe it's a weekend, but feedback needs to happen from the get-go, right? So that communication has to happen. So would the formula work in a short-term thing? Because even if it's short-term, it could be a competition.
Right. Right. It could be any situation. There have been times when I have like a little concern with my husband and I step back and use my formula because, again, I want to say something that may be hard to say, but I want him
Okay.
to hear it. And so using the formula, first of all, it helps me be clear. And second of all, it hopefully helps him hear it. So it can work in just a one-time conversation.
My trick is if it's Nancy and we're because Nancy, everyone for those who are new to the show, is my mom, and we travel together and run the company together. So it's a very interesting dynamic, and we have to be very creative of how we communicate, because we have to live, work, travel.
Right. Yes,
So
it's
it's like,
everything.
you can't keep the tenacious side going too long. You got to move on with it. And well, we don't have that much problem because we have animals around us and they make us happy. So in nature, so we're always a little on that happy side. But I just get my mom a glass of wine a little
Uh-huh.
early, and then she looks at me. She goes, "Uh-oh, what's going
Right.
on?" And then I'll go, "Here's some cheese." And I once interviewed a couple. She's a psychologist, a therapist, a family therapist, and he's a divorce lawyer. And he says when
Oh.
they have their meetings, they do it at happy hour. So when someone is taking a sip or taking a bite, they talk so they can't get interrupted. So we've been using that for years, but I don't suggest you do that at work. I'm just
Right,
saying
right.
none of that's going to happen. But on the fun side, I just wanted to kind of give some fun in there. But
Yeah.
yeah,
And it's
but
another way of saying we're on the same side. We're gonna relax and have a
well,
drink together.
you might be, you go out to lunch with an
Sure.
employee or a coworker and say, let's go into a nice calm setting and
Mhm.
start talking about maybe a project, because sometimes it's just a project, right, that you're
Right,
dealing with.
right.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm
Okay.
for a martini lunch, but let's get okay. So you talk about the same size and then it's going to be a two-way conversation, but if you're the one giving feedback, do you ask for permission first and say I want to, not, or maybe you don't ask for permission, depending, where do we go with that part to actually set it up?
So I wouldn't necessarily ask for permission, especially if you're the supervisor. You
Right, right,
should
right. No,
certainly
no,
have
no.
permission.
Yeah.
But with a peer, I might say it something like, I have something I want to talk to you about, and I'd love to set up a time where we won't be interrupted. So I might not say I want to give you feedback because that's again going to trigger that defensiveness.
Mm-hmm.
But saying giving them a heads up of I have something we're going to talk about, I want to talk about, that makes sense.
Okay.
And even with on a regular basis, I wouldn't do that with my staff member. I would instead build in the focus that we talked about last month of every meeting is about what's working, what's not working, and what are our priorities.
Mm.
But if there's something that I know it's going to be hard for them to hear, maybe
Mm-hmm.
we've talked about it several times and I'm sort of upping the ante, then I might say, when we meet tomorrow, I want to continue talking about this issue we've been talking about. So bring your thoughts so we can move forward with that.
Mm. Okay. I like that. I like that. I also like that you are talking about setting up a time so there's no interruptions, because so many times that's an excuse to shove things off to the side. And so,
Exactly.
I mean, even if it's 5 minutes. So your formula is join. I love
Right.
these. Okay, so join, Join. So we're going to go
Right.
by each letter. So J for join, O for observation, I for impact, N for need. And then you never know what could happen after that. So let's start with J for join.
Okay, so J for join is addressing that brain research.
Okay.
So you want to make a opening statement that underlines we're on the same side. So it's either going to be a shared goal or something that is driving their behavior. I know you have a lot of deadlines on your plate. I know there's a lot going on at home right now. Or I know we both want this team to be successful. I know we're both committed to the mission. So it's a we statement that just sets the tone for the feedback. We're on the
Okay.
same side.
Okay. I like that. I like that. Okay. So we're together.
Right.
Okay.
So then the O is observation, as you said, and as objectively as possible, you name what happened as if you were showing them a videotape. So this
Oh,
is
okay.
again part of how you're going to use this formula to prepare. So it really makes you think about what actually happened. Why
Hmm.
do I think they're undependable? Because undependable is a subjective statement. But you've been late to work the last 4 Mondays. That's an objective observation.
So go to facts.
Go to facts. Yes. And then the I is impact. How did this impact the work? What is
Ooh.
going on? Directly about the work, not about the person, not about um, somebody else did something and then this happened. That may be part of it, but make sure it's connected to the work.
Well, when you said that somebody, okay, maybe they were late to work the last 4 Mondays, and then you can, depending on the organization, obviously just being, in general, you could say, okay, you were late these 4 Wednesdays or Mondays, excuse me. And then when you were late, we had to have somebody else fill the shoes, and then this dropped off here. And this is where we're in the negative financially, maybe. Or
Exactly.
so
So
that's
after
what we're
I
going to.
go through the formula, I'm going to give some more examples,
Oh,
but
cool.
that's exactly the kind of impact where we want to connect the dots, why it matters that
Okay.
the O happened. And then the N is what needs to be different. So
The
what
need.
how you're asking them to change, what you're asking them to do different. And
Hmm.
then that's all again very concise. And then you follow up with a question that will bring them into the conversation.
Okay.
Because again, part of the brain research is as when people can be part of the conversation sooner, their defenses aren't going to be as high because you are saying this is us talking about this, not just me
Mm.
telling you and walking away.
Okay.
So let me give you a couple examples. And the first one is I made a silly example because I think it helps hear the formula. And
I
then
love silly. Bring it.
so let's say you're giving feedback to a cow, just to
Oh, I
be
love
very
cows.
silly. So the joint statement is I know you have a lot to get done every day. The observation is you push down the fence to get to the greener grass on the other side. The impact is our neighbor's organic garden is decimated. Need is, I need you to respect the fences. And then theoretically, a question would be, is there a better way we can build the fence so this won't happen again? And then inviting the cow into the conversation.
And the cow goes, I need a shade tree to sit and chew my cud under and
Right,
relax with water. Thank you.
right.
Yes. And
So,
then I'll
yeah,
make you the best cheese that you could ever imagine. You could go to Bodega Bay, right up the road
right.
from you. Bodega Bay has the best cheese. I'm just saying.
Oh,
But
wonderful.
the,
Great.
but so
So
and going
that's
the
one example.
yeah, I think that in going back into the late every Monday, it could be that the employee is going, yes, it is impossible for me to get my child to school on this day. Is there a way to change this? And maybe they said
Exactly.
something when they first got hired and it got ignored. You never know.
Right,
And
right.
so
Or
is there
maybe
a
something
way that I
changed.
can change my hours because I'm going to continue being late if this doesn't change because I can't fix my kid. I can't leave my kid outside.
Exactly. Exactly. So it might be a very concise statement that then you join together, come up with a solution and move on.
Mm. There's some interesting things about this feedback where, when people have these kinds of conversations, you find out something really like mind blowing. Like I've heard things in businesses where someone is really brilliant and they're like, well, you are skipping this part over and over, but here you are, this brilliant,
Mm,
mind over here. And then they find out, oh, they can't read in this language or something. You know what I
right.
mean? There are
Exactly.
some things that can't, and it can be worked around. So it's
Right.
not as it's is about making sure the project goes forward, whatever it
Right.
is.
And there's lots of ways that those questions and conversation can happen. But this is about when you get to that point of feedback, making sure you're still listening. That you
Mhm.
may think you know all the facts, but like you said, maybe when you put it so bluntly, they go, okay, I've been meaning to tell you this, but now I have to let you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think this is something, I mean, we go through this with kids, right? Parents.
Mm,
This is real similar. It's like, don't leave that part of your life out because you wake
right.
up one day and your kid's smoking in the bedroom, and they probably are. Oh, I didn't say that. I'm yeah, just
So let me
teasing.
give you a couple
Yes,
more examples.
yes,
So
please
this
do.
one is a positive example.
Oh, I like
Because
this.
again, most people can give positive feedback without any problem, but this formula can help you do that too. So, Jay's statement, I know we're both committed to this project. Observation, I heard you deal with that frustrated customer in a calm and polite manner while also holding our deadline. Impact, I could tell the customer felt heard and respected even though she disagreed with our deadline. Need, keep up the good work. And then the question might be, is there anything else you want to talk about with that example?
Yes, there is. Maybe we didn't need to have the customer be upset with that deadline in the first place.
Maybe,
See,
yeah,
it could be a
exactly.
company thing where maybe it was a temporary issue, or like, do we really have to do a deadline on this
Right,
day when the suppliers don't come in on time?
exactly. Yeah, it could lead to a good conversation that may or may not lead to changes. Maybe there is a good reason for the deadline, maybe there's not.
Oh, you said the word change. Does that help this feedback then and using this formula when a company goes through change or an organization? Because change ruffles everyone's feathers.
Right. And well, that's the point of feedback is, you want something to change either by doing
Yeah,
more of what's working or changing what's not working.
yeah. Well,
Absolutely.
something new that's being implemented, I would say feedback is crucial for
Hmm.
every level. I mean, and then if you start getting it with your customers, now would you use this formula with your customers at any or no? Would this be more internal?
If I had to tell a customer something that was, they were mad at me because of the deadline and maybe they did something inappropriate, then I might use this feedback to say, you know, I understand that you were upset about the deadline when you swore at our customer service rep and screamed at them. That's not okay.
That, yeah,
The
yeah.
impact is that they couldn't work for an hour because they were so upset. So I really need to work with you so we can hear your concerns in a productive way and
Ooh,
move
you're
forward.
good. You're good, Rita. I'm calling you when I call customer service
So
first.
again, it's as much about my preparation as it is about them.
Ah, I love this. I
So
love
I
this.
can, you know, maybe get my frustrations out before I talk to them
Mm,
by going through this.
mm.
Okay, so I have two more examples
I'm
to
ready.
really get this in you. Um, so this is somebody, feedback to someone who just had a staff meeting and they talked the whole time. So I know, joint statement, I know you have a lot of ideas to share with the team. So acknowledging the good part of what they're doing. Observation, in the meeting yesterday, you spoke for most of the meeting. Impact, we held the meeting to get input and we didn't get any. In addition, people were looking very frustrated. Need, I need you to monitor your airtime so other people can participate. This will help to build trust and connection as well as hearing other ideas. How can I support you in this?
Would you like a gag? Okay. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But yeah, but that's like letting people know that it's not just you either. So you're
Right.
bringing in that you know, and it's also important when you bring in the group, like other, you could notice other people or you know that kind of thing. Sometimes people give feedback and it maybe one person made a comment and they come in and say 10 people did when you know it's bogus. Do you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
I want to do that.
No, I know you wouldn't, but I'm saying in
Right.
a, we need to be aware of that too, is don't over exaggerate. It would be
Right.
better to say at least it was one person, so hopefully we don't want it to get to 10, instead
Right.
of people going in 10 people said this and that and it's not true and you know it's not. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Then you're
So
going to undermine your whole conversation. Absolutely.
you want to nip everything in the bud, like
Right.
as
Right.
it starts. But yeah, that's yeah, yeah. Ooh, okay, what's your next one?
All right. The last one here. So this is a situation where somebody is not showing respect for their colleagues.
Oh.
So joint statement, I know you support the team and are excited about being a part of it. Observation, I have seen you repeatedly interrupt your team members, especially women and people of color.
Ooh.
Impact, this undermines our sense of teamwork and leaves people feeling disrespected. Need, we've talked about this before. I want to know what you will do to disrupt this practice. And then the question, do you have any ideas right now about how you could do that?
Mm.
And so this one's a little different because I'm not just saying stop doing that. I'm saying we've talked about this several times, so
Yeah.
we really have to dig a little deeper to come up with a plan. And I want you to come up with the plan.
Mm. So with that kind of thing, can people with the feedback and if it's been a repeat situation like you're saying here, yeah, I want to hear it now, but then could you say I want something like a written, this is what I'm going to do? You could say like on a
Absolutely.
deadline, like if it's
Absolutely.
I mean, colleague to colleague, that would be rough, but like as a supervisor, you
Exactly.
need to put that in place. And I think you know what's going on is a serious thing with what you're talking about. I mean, the
Exactly.
cow
We
is fun,
need
but
to
this is not
ramp
the
up.
cow. This ain't
Right.
the cow. This is where something could get legal.
Right. And could become disciplinary.
Yeah.
But before that, I want to give them a chance. And if they don't have any ideas right now, or they don't even respond, I might say something like, you know, I'm going to give you 24 hours. Let's meet at this time tomorrow. And I really want to hear like three things. of what you could
And
do
don't
different.
be bossy with it, right? Or
Right.
just like, I want to hear from this. Do you need help? Do you need what do you need?
Yeah, my tone is calm in all these
Ooh,
examples. I'm not shaming anybody or threatening them. I'm giving them information.
yeah, feedback and hoping they respond in the way they need to. And that last example, I mean, some people are just raised differently, come out and don't even have a clue how they're coming
Exactly.
off, have no
Right.
clue. May be brilliant in whatever they're doing, but
Right.
destructive over here.
Exactly. They may not even realize they're doing that.
And a company cannot pitch its tail on the donkey if the donkey's going to kick him over and over, right? You know what I mean?
Sure.
It's,
Yeah,
that was
exactly.
weird. You said cow and I went to donkey at the end of this, but that's what happens. I went to the farm and
And
I
then
went
you
up.
ran into the donkey.
I do. You also mentioned things that are in your notes about being careful of how all
Yeah.
of this can go. There's a couple of warnings in this.
Yeah, just in terms of the formula, I have two warnings. One is be careful to not put a but between the join and the observation.
Ooh.
Sometimes it comes out without people even realizing it. I know we're both committed to this project, but I heard you deal with that frustrated employee. And the but takes away the join statement because suddenly you're
Oh.
against them again instead of joining them. So no
Okay.
buts.
Yeah, no buts.
And then the other thing to be careful of is when you're using this to prepare to give the feedback, pay special attention to the impact. They're all important, but a couple times when I've used this formula, I got to the feedback and realized, the impact is there's really no impact on the work. The work is getting done. They're just not doing it the way I would do it.
Oh,
So if that's true, then maybe I don't have to give the feedback. It's really about me.
ooh,
If, of course, if there is policies and procedures and protocol and they're not following them, then that matters. But if it's just, I might just not realize that I want
it's
them
just you're
to
being
do it the
annoyed.
way I do it.
Yeah,
And there's no need to. They're getting the work done. So that's the
that's
other.
very human, Rita, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a good way to catch it.
Hmm.
And the same with like maybe you're giving feedback on, they're late, they wait to the last minute to meet a deadline.
Mm-hmm.
And you get to the eye and the sort of the same reaction. Well, they are getting the work done. And then the impact, you realize, well, the impact is that they stress everybody else on the team out when they wait to the last minute. So
Yeah.
that's a very valid impact.
Yeah.
It's not just about my preference, but it helps to make that, to understand that, whether you would say it or not.
Hmm. So really plan it out before, almost write it down before you
Yeah,
do it.
yeah.
And have it even in front of you. Could you as a cheat sheet?
Sure. Yeah, if that's helpful. And I would tell the person that, I want to make sure that I say this in my best way. So I had made myself some notes.
Yeah. I just want it to go well.
Right,
Exactly. Exactly. I think that's very authentic,
right.
you
And then
know.
again, moving to the two-way conversation. So you
Mm.
move into problem solving after you give the feedback.
Okay, and then helping if they go, oh, well, I didn't know that there was a policy for this that I could use. Like if I'm
Right.
allowed you know, to change my hours, I didn't know that. So that's really cool. But I think looking at, someone could just be irking you. I mean,
Uh,
people
Right.
do. It's
Absolutely. And the question there is it impacting the work? If
mhm.
it is, then it's fair game, but maybe it's just like, no, I get annoyed
Well,
when you
some people
walk
just
by their
don't.
desk.
They meet people and they don't like them instantly. There's a gut instinct of protection that's genuine, and then your body also does it because they may actually look like someone that was
Mhm.
harmful to you in the past.
Absolutely.
It just has that look, and then you just start going, oh. And it's really hard to get past it, but if you identify it,
Right.
you know.
You can catch it and nip it in the bud, as we said.
But I honestly think all those people that do look like that person or something turn out to be that way. They do. I don't know. But you should listen to your gut and start asking questions versus feedback is not an attack.
Absolutely. Yeah. No.
That's the crucial thing. Feedback
Absolutely.
is a stepping stone to make things better and
Right.
more efficient, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Very cool. Rita, you're so good.
No, thank you.
Everyone, you know, that's why she's written 2 books. We're hoping for a third, but you can also go to supervisionmatters.com and go get her books there and sign up your newsletter. That's what people should know about. Tell everybody about your newsletter.
Yeah, I write mostly monthly, but sometimes it's every other month when I get around to it. And it's tips and tools that ongoing about supervision and organizations, leadership,
Yeah.
specifically.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Very cool. Rita, thank you so much. And we'll talk next time. Have some more feedback. I might have feedback from something. I'll have another example somewhere. I give feedback to dogs all the time. I'm like, now the way you wagged your tail, if you did it this way, I'd give you more food.
Over the glass of water.
Yeah, or the glass of wine. Now we're in trouble.
Right,
now I have to start all over. Thanks so much, Lisa. Rita. Take care.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Big Blend Radio's Supervision Matters podcast with Rita Sever. Keep up with Rita at supervisionmatters.com and listen to new episodes every third Friday at 12 p.m. Pacific Time, 3 p.m. Eastern Time on bigblendradio.com.